Good morning, everybody. So today, with this prompt of the road less traveled, I wanted to talk a little bit about our paths and talk a little bit about my journey and where I came to where I am today. And the misperceptions or misconceptions I had on those paths and whatnot. And it's really important to think about that if your path is clear, that you may be on somebody else's. And that's something that took me a really long time to realize as I went through my career. And I want to talk to you about how I learned to trust my instinct, how I learned to trust in creativity and inspiration to lead my way, and how having limits shouldn't hold you back and should inspire you to move forward. So this is my father, my sister as well. And my life growing up, I was always a very creative kid. I enjoyed the arts, creativity, technology, and we were always encouraged to be creative in my household. So my idea of success as a child was to grow up, get a high-paying job in animation, get that huge house, and then I'd be successful. And that's the path I put myself on, and I thought that was the path that I needed to take. And as I went to college, I went to UCF and took classes in animation. My junior year of college, my path suddenly crumbled under my feet, and my father passed away. And coping with that was really difficult, especially at that time in my life. And my coping mechanism was to dive into work. And I had to be successful. I had to do it for my family. I had to do it to prove to myself that I was going to make my father proud. And knowing deep down now that he would have been proud whatever path I took. So I dove into work, and I got the industry job, and I worked on animations and jumbotrons and commercials, and I did motion graphics, and I just wasn't happy. And I didn't feel that fulfillment until I had the opportunity to teach one day. And when I became a teacher, when I started teaching at the university, I started to inspire others. I started to share with them my passion for creativity and how we can inspire people. And I had the opportunity to reach out to populations of underserved children and teach them about careers in creativity and careers in the arts and influence them, hopefully, in a positive way on their path. And it was really rewarding. And I finally started to love what I did. And I still was being creative. I still was doing amazing research work, and it was a wonderful experience. And another opportunity would arise that would change my life even further and really show me the way. I was approached by a 3D printed prosthetic limb company 3 years ago. And I got an email, and this company, Limitless Solutions, had just received some viral video fame by a famous actor handing out a themed 3D printed prosthetic, superhero prosthetic, to one of their bionic kids. And they approached me and discussed ways that we could collaborate using creativity. And I approached it like I did any other project, any other research project or industry level project. And I thought, okay, this is a really great idea. Let's go in. And we decided actually to make a video game controller, my colleagues and I, to teach the children how to use the prosthetic limbs. How fun is that, right? And we developed this controller, and we worked in my little lab, and I realized there was more to this story than I first had assumed. So we found that over 32,000 children are born in the United States with some sort of form of limb reduction and limb difference.
Go to location services settings.
Sure. It's okay. So I found that 32,000 children in the United States were born with some sort of limb difference. And that was a staggering number to me. And then I began to hear the stories of these children. And I had never experienced the stories of my audience as I created things in the industry. And I learned about little Alex here. Little Alex was actually at one point afraid to go to the grocery store and would hide behind his parents because he was terrified that people would ask, "What's wrong with you?" Or, "Why do you look that way?" Or, "What happened?" And as soon as he received his bionic limb, his superhero-themed bionic limb, the conversation would change. And he would walk out in front of his parent. And he would get questions like, how cool is that? And can I be a superhero like you? And even to this day, when Alex dresses up for Superhero Day, now he goes as himself at school. That's pretty empowering. And so I learned about how creativity and technology can empower others. And this was not about money. This was not about fame or recognition. This was about helping individuals. I would learn more stories about the power of expression, about our bionic kids and the struggles that they would face because they would be perceived as if they were broken or different, which they weren't. They were just differently abled. And with their bionic limb, the confidence that it gave them. So here in the top corner is Wyatt, and Wyatt is on the autism spectrum. And Wyatt, first, he was nonverbal to the age of 7, first received his arm that we created by Blue Man Group. Blue Man Group is all about nonverbal forms of expression, so music and color and visuals, very important things for those on the spectrum. And Wyatt, now 15 years old and about as tall as me, when we have events, he'll go in front of people and talk and share his story. He wants to be a director and a filmmaker and share how creativity can inspire others like him. And it's really amazing the transformation that creativity can cause on people. And Wyatt, which is really exciting, we hope to be one of the first bionic kids to actually go to UCF and work in our lab. How cool is that? Coming full circle as a recipient all the way to this. So we realized it's more than just riding a bike. It's more than just picking up things. It's about that empowerment that creativity can cause. So this was my moment. As I mentioned, going back, I worked with my colleagues to create a video game controller. And this is Zach. And Zach is an amazing young man. He lives in Seattle. And this was the moment, the first moment, I'm so thrilled it was captured on film, that we hooked him up to our video game. Again, this was another project for me. I'm used to completing a project, moving on to the next. And we hooked Zach up, and we have even a little nose-picking game there that kids can, remember this is for kids, kids can use. And when they flex their muscle, the game, it would act as a video game controller. And that's how the arms worked as well. When you flex your muscle, the arms work. So I hooked him up, and then this happened. This moment that when I worked on Jumbotrons and commercials, I didn't witness this. I teared up. It changed me forever. This was what it was all about. Not the fame, not the money, not the recognition. This expression, this child. And more importantly, we always get told, oh, you help so many people. These children helped me. They helped me put me on that, or helped put me on that road that changed my perception of what we can do as a community and a culture, and how we can influence and change other people's lives. And this is what sold me. And I left there with my colleagues, and I looked at them, and I said, this is no longer a project, this is our mission. This is what we're here to do. And we would put in hours and hours every week, and we would start working directly with the children more. Again, it transcended that project. Here we are playing our video game, Wyatt and Juliana. Juliana, a competitive cheerleader, can do flips beyond belief, more than I can do with 2 limbs. She's an award-winning cheerleader, and then Wyatt there playing the game. They began to create this sense of community with one another. They never actually had a video game experience like you and I, and this changed them, and it changed their perceptions. They would bring their children in. And a few more images of them. We opened this lab as well, and this lab became a beacon for others who have limb difference and others who had perceived accessibility concerns. And we would find that mentors would come. And this is Shahali, one of our bionic adults. And Shahali would provide mentorship to those like Annika here and Alex and Zach. And they found others who went through it just like they did. They found people like them, people they could talk to, confide in, and built community. And it's really important that we continue to do this. And then what happened was really cool. We had undergraduate students working, they started sharing their stories, and they started doing this outreach and reaching out to all sorts of people and teaching other peers like themselves about giving back to one another and leaving your egos at the door. And unfortunately, in university situations, we often silo these different philosophies like psychology and medical and arts. But here at our lab, we would break down those silos and invite everyone in. And believe it or not, they showed up. And every day, people would come through our door and ask, how can I help? How can I change the life of one person? And that one person became 2 people and 3 people. And it truly was contagious in a good way. And more things happened. We would have these moments where somebody was going to a store next door and would stop in the lab and say, I have a nephew, his name is Michael, for instance, and Michael has cerebral palsy. We noticed you make video games. He loves video games and wants to play with his cousin. What can we do to help him? So we would say, come in, bring Michael in. And that day, Michael came in, and we set him up on our accessibility controllers, and he had a blast. And those moments, just when I think, maybe we're not helping enough people, just when I think, am I on the right path? Believe it or not, these moments happen. And it's really, really amazing because they come just at the right time. And when I'm in doubt, somebody like Michael shows up and a friend who can show me, again, the way and direct me on that path. And we met people like Keith and Milad, who are engineers and designers and gamers themselves. And we spoke on panels with them, and they talked about creating accessible technology and how they share that with their communities. And this idea that creativity can bring everyone together is truly amazing, and it starts inspiring everyone around us. And these are the newer arms. And again, we want our children to be empowered. We want them to feel like their favorite superhero. We want their arms to be perceived just like the fashion that they wear, and build that confidence with one another. If they want to be a warrior one day, they can be that. If they want to be peaceful and serene, they could be that as well. And it's really important to go back to my path because I assumed my path was clear. I assumed this is where I'm going to go, this is what I'm going to be. I never thought I would be an art director for a 3D printed prosthetic company. That was never in the cards growing up. I'm so happy my path led me down that way. And I want to leave you with the famous words of Ed Capnell, the president of Pixar. And Ed says, limits force us to rethink how we are working and push us to new heights of creativity. Think about that. So as each and every one of you in this room go forward, as each and every one of you push yourself and find your path, don't be deterred by your limits. Break through them, charge through them. Take that harder road. You're going to pave the road that you were meant to make. You're not going to take somebody else's. And I truly mean this. If you take that road, you will be happy at the end because where that road leads you will lead you to true enlightenment and happiness. Thank you.